Okay, so good day class. So today we're going to have our lecture on SPP document 203. So I'm just going to do the introduction of the different design services, specialized architectural services. Then I'm going to require you to explain the different specialized services later on in our activity. Okay. So introduction. So time and technology have evolved to a level where specialized architectural services are needed to complete, complement, or supplement the necessary work for the totality of a project. So I think this is true. Okay. So right now we are already in the fourth, heading towards the fifth industrial revolution. Okay. So ever since the invention of the steam engine, uh, humanity has arrived to a new height in history. Okay? Along with this, technology, construction technology also evolved. So there are new types of materials, new fields in engineering as well. So apart from the legal definitions of light under RE 9266, architecture may be defined as the blending of aesthetics, functions, space, materials, and its environment resulting from the application of various technologies and skills in different fields. Okay. So, architecture class, if we're going to define it in the lens or in the context of new technologies in construction and design, so there are already a lot of aesthetics available. Aesthetics and materials and advanced techniques as well in construction. Okay. Right now, we already have what you call this robots for uh, finishing works in other countries. Then we also have industrial level 3D printing of buildings. Okay. So that's under the Industry 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution. Then we have specialized architectural services, which deals with a specific expertise for further enhancement of the architectural interior and exterior components of a project. Okay? So the practice class outside the Philippines is that the architect is no longer a general practitioner. You can find a lot of architects specializing into several fields already, several specific specializations. So you can see architects which specialize only in residential designs. You have architects who specialize in hospital design, in mall design, in airport design, in institutional design. Okay? So architectural services has become more specific and specialized. Along with these uh, specializations, there are different needs already which arise in the context of the building or structure. So the architect's responsibility to man and society is to make sure that both the building and its physical environment enhances the lives of the people by strictly adhering to national and international standards with regard to public health, safety, and welfare. Okay. So there are international standards as well, class, that we follow. In the Philippines, you have the National Building Code. Okay. Outside, there's also an International Building Code. Then you also have the NFPA and other standards as well, which safeguards public health, safety, and welfare. Then, the architectural plan and design of the building properly falls under the architect's regular design services, which is SPP document 202, which we have discussed earlier on. So design services needed within and outside the building which fall under specialized architectural services as listed under the pertinent provisions of RA 9266 and its 2000 for IRR include but are not limited to the following. So the first are architectural interiors. So when you say architectural interiors class, it's different from interior design. Because in architectural interiors, we deal only with the things inside the design inside the building which cannot be moved, okay, or fixed, or it is fixed. For example, the ceiling, it is fixed. Okay. You have wall components that are fixed also. Okay. So those are just some of the examples. Okay, so it's really important, class, for you to recognize what's the line between the interior designer and the architect. So we give to the interior designer their practice, then we also have our practice as architects as well. Then you have acoustic design. So I think, class, that you've already finished your acoustics. Okay, so I think part of the general scope, class, of architecture or specialized design is acoustics design. So you design, for example, a theater. Okay, I hope that you could still you're familiar with the most perfect theater design in history. Okay, so the theater of Epidaurus, which is part of which was carved from a mountain, there's almost perfect acoustics. Okay, so that's a very good example for good acoustical and architectural design. Okay, so even the Greeks were able to perfect it uh, with their, what you call this, not so advanced technology. So how much more now when we have a lot of materials available for making sure that we have a very uh, well-made project in terms of acoustic design. Okay? Then we have SDP, or site development planning. Then we have site physical planning, which includes the master development planning, subdivision planning, and urban design. Okay? So I think in in our previous um, in our previous professional practice one, we have discussed about the different laws uh, governing subdivisions. So I think you already have an idea on the processes and the minimum design standards involved. Then you have comprehensive development planning, and you have historic and cultural heritage conservation and planning. Okay? So this is something, class, that I have been reading quite recently, lately, a lot lately regarding architecture. Because as architects, class, part of our duty to society is to make sure that um, our design does not destroy the historic and cultural heritage of the area where we are doing our buildings. Okay? So most likely we can consider our professions as the torchbearers of civilization. Okay? Because we look at the present with regards to the past and the future as well. Okay? So we don't only design for money, we don't only design uh, just for the business itself. We look into the society in general, and on how future generations will see the expression of civilization in our era. Then you have security evaluation and planning. Okay? So I think as architects, class, I think we would be best suited to determine the areas of vulnerability in a building or in a place. Okay? Since we can think in three dimensions when we design, so we can probably determine what's the safest route for a certain VIP, or what area should be given more security also, then where to place the security cameras, etc. Then we have the building systems design, facilities maintenance support, building testing and commissioning, building environmental certification. Okay? So, building environmental certification, I think one example I can think of this is when you have your building LEED certified. Okay? As an architect, um, if you already taken exam or studies to become an LEED green associate or an LEED AP in the future, then you could probably design your building in a way that it would be given a certification for an LEED rating. Okay? So don't you know, class, that there's a building here in Cagayan de Oro that's LEED Platinum certified. Okay, so that's up to you to know. So you should research on that. Then you have forensic architecture. Then you have building appraisal. Okay. So we could also appraise properties class, but you must be licensed and a real estate appraiser for this. Okay. Like me class, I took the real estate appraiser exam in 2012 or I forgot, somewhere in 11 or 12 when I became a licensed real estate appraiser. So what we do is we appraise the building on its what's the value of the building currently. So there's a lot of considerations and computations for you arrive to its value. Okay. So I think it's good for architects to be able to learn building appraisal because we could already visualize the different parts and components of the building just by looking at its plans, then its estimates. And so I think we could get a much clearer picture compared to those who have no background in construction and design. Then we have structural conceptualization. Okay, so before RE 9266, I think architects can design uh, buildings structurally. Okay? So that's why class um, you have subjects which are heavy in mathematics. You have your engineering sciences, and you have your steel design, concrete design, and you have your timber and steel. Okay, so I hope that you will internalize those aspects of architecture as well, not only on the aesthetics part. Okay? Because as architects, we should be not only concerned with how the structure will look, but we should also be concerned if it's practical to build it. And we should also be concerned if your design can be brought into reality. I have preliminary services, then you have contract documentation and review. You have post-design services, which include construction management. You have dispute avoidance and resolution. You have architectural research methods. So when you do architectural research, you could do a lot of things. First is you could do a pure experimental design when you design a new facade for a building, okay? Or you design a new lightweight material for the facade or a new kind of glass which stores solar energy. Okay? And you have special building, facility planning and design. You have building components. You have management of architectural practices. Okay? So the term consulting architect shall refer only to an RLA or a registered and licensed architect who may also be a separately registered and licensed professional, a natural person under Philippine law and jurisprudence with a valid certificate of registration and a valid professional identification card representing the renewable license for the lawful practice of one or more state-regulated profession other than architecture. Like for my class, I'm not only a licensed and registered architect, I'm also a licensed real estate broker and a licensed real estate appraiser, which means that I can sell properties and I can appraise the value of the property also. Okay? For this SPP, the term architects refers to the consulting architect who may be the holder of a valid specialist certificate that may be issued by the board and or the commission upon due qualification or accreditation by the IAPOA. Okay, so I just stop here the introduction class because your activity for our SPP document 203 would be to consolidate and articulate the different design services which fall under this category. Okay, so if you have any questions or clarifications, you are free to contact me anytime. Okay, then stay safe and see you next meeting.